Call roll. Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Farley?
Here.
Mr. Brooms?
Here.
Dr. Hutton?
Here.
Ms. Bray?
Here.
Mr. Rich?
Here.
Mayor Goodwin?
Here. So we'll have the invocation by Councilmember Farley, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Dear Lord, we come to you at this time asking for your blessing and help as we are gathered together. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. Bless the sick and those that care for the sick. Watch over all those who work in public service. Bless our nation, our state, and our home here in Folly Beach. We ask this in your name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, in the mayor's comments tonight, we'll start off here by reading a letter that was sent in for one of our workers, public works workers. And it said, I don't say which Wednesday, but it says, on Wednesday I walked out of my house to chaos. The dog was attacking a smaller dog that belonged to some of the renters a few doors down from me. I love animals, and this was a very horrific and disturbing scene. The couple was trying to rescue their dog, and the mom was screaming loudly and had a baby strapped to the front of her as I saw a Folly Beach truck stop in the roadway in which Mr. Wright, Earl Wright, was driving. He inserted himself into the situation, helping to separate the vicious dog from the attacking the smaller dog at great risk to himself. He ended up calming the larger dog down through kindness and patience, which was pretty amazing. He then took a strap from his truck and restrained the dog until the public safety officer and owner arrived. Mr. Wright did a wonderful thing and had a huge impact on everyone involved. We are fortunate to have employees like Mr. Wright working for Folly Beach. Sincerely, Randy Carter. So at this time, since we're not having anybody in here, we would normally present a certificate of appreciation, and all this goes in Earl Wright's folder. Thank you very much, Earl. We all give Earl a round of applause for his work. And he gets a little gift certificate to go along with that. The only thing I would say is, Earl, be careful how you jump in them dog fights. Sometimes you end up being the villain. But thank you very much for helping taking care of folks. That's really all I have for this evening. We have some staff reports coming up. So first we'll have staff report by Chief Gilreath. And you want to stand over there or stand over here, wherever you can get to the mic easier.
One of the things that's in this packet is the intergovernmental agreement between us and Charleston County Dispatch Center. I know they're awesome to be here tonight. Appreciate you guys to see on the little TV screen there in case anybody has any questions. This is something we've talked about for quite a while. We talked about it during the budgetary process. This is not Folly Beach giving up dispatch or vice versa, anything like that. It's literally just a way for us to work closer. It's going to provide a better service for the municipality, the folks that are here to visit and live. And obviously those folks are here to answer any questions that you may have in relations to this. But I think you all are pretty clear, at least based on our previous conversations. But they wanted to be here in case there were any questions.
Is it their equipment?
It's actually, so Rapid Deploy is actually something that's cloud-based, so we'll be able to access it through, the internet.
And is this the one where they define that essential personnel will get the information?
Yeah,
And who is essential? Who would be?
the first responders, dispatch.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you guys for taking your time to be here. Appreciate it.
Very well.
Okay. Yeah. Ms. Jolly, you're up. I know you've been waiting all day anxiously to talk.
Hello, everybody. Everyone's doing okay. As you see in the agenda, I have a memo similar to the memo I had in last month's meeting, requesting recreation programming for fall and winter. The schedule is a little different than it was last month. There have been some communication with our pickleball group and our tennis group about coordinating their schedule. The pickleball group's schedule is not updated as to what they're requesting because this just happened yesterday. Basically, if you've read the memo, this is what we're proposing, except for Folly Beach Pickleball, or Jolly Folly Pickleball would like to increase their times, or days, and their times from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. They would love 7 days a week. And, you know, they would take 4 days a week for a schedule, a programming schedule, which would work around what the tennis people are requesting. And the reason why the tennis people are requesting the duration that they are is because apparently the demand is all over the place of the residents and participants. And so they put that out there for you to review and consider. The last time basketball was a question because it wasn't presented prior. And basketball was not presented prior just because we did not have a vendor at the time. We proposed recreation as a whole to you. And I've since found a vendor and, or a contractor, I should say, Coach Brown. And he obviously adjusted his schedule based on what you guys recommended last time due to the hours, the Saturday morning hours. He changed those to Sundays. And the reauthorization of soccer on the beach because of Folly River Park closure, and then yoga on the beach because of Folly River Park closure. And that's really it. If you guys have any questions, for you.
Will these times be posted on the Hudson side, on the board?
Yes, sir.
Or there?
And on the website and do social media pushes.
Okay. Yeah, because one thing I know that Momentum Tennis is taking up a wide span there, and of course, the citizen use is important. But, and I know he's trying to schedule private lessons basically, is what I'm understanding.
Private and semi-private.
And it could, I mean, just as we go forward, can he narrow those down or at least have a, you know, a specific time versus just reserving the court for the whole day or during the daytime? Because I know a lot of tennis fanatics on the island.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, this year, you know, this is our first year of recreation,
Mhm.
and so we really haven't had a good chance to determine what the demand is.
Okay.
And with COVID and, you know, it's just been all over the place. So we're really just trying to get on a cycle of, which will probably be different in the winter than in the spring and, you know, seasonal hours, but yes.
And I do know that the pickleball, they've had great success. I think Patty has done a wonderful job coordinating all that. We've had anywhere from, 8 to 16 people a morning playing some of that, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
Getting community involved.
If you're getting that many people just to come and play, does this not seem a little too intrusive? Because I mean, your courts are essentially scheduled the majority of the time for certain things, and it doesn't leave open for free play.
Well, that was my concern, I think, with the tennis, pickleball, how many people get up at 7 in the morning to play?
I know y'all do, and that's it.
We do, I know, and, but it's cooler that time, that's for sure. But going into the winter, that may change to 7:30 or 8 even. But again, if you've got people that are residents, and the majority of them are residents, so they're gonna be playing, they're gonna come and show up at 7 in the morning and set up the nets, or 6:45, until they'll claim the court at that time, even if it's not on the schedule, which I feel, comfortable with that. But I know she's trying to work with that scheduling to not reserve it for the whole time, just for the pickleball players or for the tennis, and to have the citizens available to play, have some open time to play. So I think that's where I think the massaging of the times is going to have to happen,
Yeah,
and she's working with it.
I think the tennis, I don't have a problem with the tennis on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but I do have a problem scheduling Saturday like most of the day, because that's when most
Yeah.
people are wanting to use the courts to play in tennis that are residents just using the courts. So Saturdays, I would think that would not be a good, Saturdays and Sundays would not be a good day to schedule.
I wouldn't think
Tennis
any of it.
lessons.
I mean, even basketball, we only have 2 hoops.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking up a lot of communal time with structured classes, and it's fine if our people are getting use out of them, but if they're not, then you're cutting off access to everybody else who would just go down there and play a pickup game, or, say you get a daring group of people that want to play pickleball at 11 in the morning.
No, they all get up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They start texting each other about, are we playing today?
Well,
Or too
that's all good and well too, but I mean, I think we should make sure that our times of park opening are highlighted, because we don't need people out there at 6:30 in the morning cranking nets out and everything when the park doesn't open until 7:30 or 8.
Well, hours are considered dawn to dusk, so that's how that when.
Right, now I get it, but dawn to dusk constantly changes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's what has been. the
So if you
guidelines.
live next door and people got out there before dawn to start setting up for a dawn start, you can see where that would be a little problematic.
Right.
Especially if you have organized classes now coming out that early, that's more people, more setup, more noise. I think it's very ambitious. I hope it's not too ambitious to where we cut access off to other people. This is my only fear with it.
I think 7 and 9, that's pretty much what pickleball people's doing pretty much now. I don't think, we haven't had one complaint, a noise.
And again, if people do come in and they want to play tennis, I've seen where they're very courteous of allowing, hey, we'll finish this game and we're off. So they'll allow them to play tennis.
Yeah, but as soon as we set these structured times, people aren't gonna be as courteous. Because we're like, no, this is scheduled until this time.
Well, I mean, we've got it reserved. If they would have it reserved, then I can see that.
Well, I think too, what Colleen's been saying is that this is a learning thing too. Let's see
Yep.
how it goes. And Holly, maybe you ask for tennis, maybe try not to schedule Saturdays, although that may be the only day for some people who work during the week.
Well,
Or
that's what I was
who
gonna
can
say.
get their kids there because they're running around during the
Well,
week
yeah,
in school
but
and
if
everything.
you're going to schedule an hour on Saturday, that's one thing. But if
Right.
you're going to schedule from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock,
Right.
nobody else is going
Right.
to be down there to be able to be there, that's something else.
Right.
Time
Just ask them to
changes here in a
keep it
couple
to
weeks.
minimum.
Yeah.
Right, so their schedule used to be 8:30 to 1:30 on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and Saturdays were their busy day. So, I don't know if that's, and it was only scheduled that way just to have the flexibility of, they are not residents, so they're driving onto the island. So when they schedule, they're trying to schedule people back to back for, say, 3
Well,
hours at a time.
Who's
or
not
2
residents? The people participating in the classes or the
No,
instructors?
the instructors.
Okay, because I mean, if the participants aren't residents, there's plenty of tennis courts on James Island.
Yeah,
They have
no,
so many
most
that you
of
can
the
do whatever you
participants
want.
are residents.
Okay.
Yeah, I just meant that the instructors are not.
So we only
they're
have
trying
one.
to, schedule their time in a way where they're here for 2 hours at a time or so.
Colleen, also, is there a discount for residents for the tennis?
Yes, so every program that we're offering, Parks and Rec, sponsors $10 off.
Okay, so that tennis is included in that.
That's what my clarification is as far as the benefit to the residents. So basketball is 10, yoga is how much, do they get a discount too?
No, yoga is donation based, so, she may be doing it for free for people, or, they're throwing in a donation that she just,
So
doesn't.
there's not like a fee, there's a donation, and there's no like, okay, so, all right, so that's hard to figure out as far as how to, and then pickleball I get, there's no fee. Tennis, there is a fee, and the residents get a less or a bargain, or?
Yes, $10 when
Okay,
they
so
sign
they're
up.
10. Soccer shots is 10. The beach reauthorization, is that the same thing as soccer as far as post soccer on the beach? Is that,
Yes, that's what we were doing, because Folly River Park is closed, we don't have a location for soccer. So they authorized soccer on the beach back.
and they get a $10 discount? too?
Yes, they do.
Beautiful, okay, so we get all that fee. And then one's a donation. So the residents get a deal.
And we've since, the program, the after-school program has hopped on too. And, we are offering a $10 discount well, it's based on how many sessions they sign up for with the after-school program, what we sponsor.
Great.
Okay, so, do we have specific hours that we're proposing for these, or?
There's nothing on for us to vote on.
You know, maybe just do an hour or an hour and a half set, maybe an hour and a half set. I mean, most of the people participating are residents.
Is this for approval? Because we don't have anything to vote on this. It's just a report, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a report right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
But so do we want, I'm just wondering if you have suggestions for what hours, with tennis and pickleball and the days. Luckily, it's nice that they're working together, and this is why this is the way that it is. But Jolly Volley Pickleball would like 7 to 9 a.m. for 7 days a week if they could, 4 definitely. And then Momentum Tennis, this is what they're proposing.
when you say the pickleball, is that something that anybody can play pickleball in, or is that a designated class for
No,
pickleball?
anyone
So that's
can
just
play.
reserving times for pickleball on a tennis court.
Yes.
That's essentially what they're saying. The other people just want tennis during certain times. I mean, that's easier to swallow than restricting complete access to just a certain group. Because that's the way I took it as, is this was just a group that wanted to play, and you can't just say, okay, your group can play exclusively for 2 hours a day, 7 days a
Is
week.
anybody-
Pickleball?
Yeah.
It's whoever shows up.
So whoever shows up.
And
So
they're
we're
very
just,
welcome.
so it's not a class, it is a time that is designated just for pickleball and not tennis.
Bingo.
I mean,
Is pickleball only set up on one side of the court?
There are 3 pickleball on the tennis court. They utilize the tennis court net, and then there's 2 other pickleballs that are very close to the fence.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's
So you
on
can
the
have
basketball court.
So you can have 12 participants at the same time.
You can have 16, because there's another court that goes on the basketball side.
Ah,
So you have-
awesome.
You can have 4 courts set
So if
up.
somebody really wanted to play tennis, they could, give it up and go play on the basketball court if the time ran out, and they could set up a tent basketball.
And have you heard of any conflicts? 7 to 9 pickleball.
I haven't had any complaints.
It's a very
Yeah.
accommodating group.
Yeah, so that sounds fun.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is, I've talked to people at tennis, who've been on tennis, and say, if you want to schedule lessons on Saturday, it needs to be like from 9 to 12.
Okay.
Or even narrower than that.
Just
Pick
be
an hour and a half.
12 on a
2
Saturday
hours.
is a lot. I mean, especially time changes a little bit, you're only gonna have so much sunlight to go around.
And I know people try to accommodate, but, we can't.
I mean, I think
one day be-
weekends,
One Saturday be 10 o'clock and the next Saturday be 2 o'clock, And
almost
not
like
be hold
weekends, we
court for
first
all
come,
day.
first serve.
Because other people might want to sign up, which is the whole idea that I get. And if they know it's filled up for the whole Saturday, then
Well, so they're only here if they have a lesson scheduled. If it's not, if there's no lesson, then the courts are available to anyone to use. They're not here waiting.
You have to start somewhere, so,
yeah.
And is
we
there a
could
way
go
for,
back and forth about times and all this. Just let them use it, and if a problem comes and you can't, there's no sense us trying to solve a problem that might not even exist.
I agree.
Yep, I'm with you.
is there a way for the resident to check before walking to the courts or using their golf cart to get to the courts to see if it's going to be occupied for an hour on a given Saturday, for instance?
Well, other than calling the contractor, no, unless I get more involved with that process.
The answer is no.
No.
And there's no cameras or anything to, like, supposedly for the traffic, so you just have to take a chance. And if, to even go further than that, even if Colleen got involved and said, well, you can call me, I can tell you if these guys are scheduled, but she won't know if they're not scheduled, that somebody else isn't just down there playing. You know, DJ wanted to take his guys down to the basketball court.
And that doesn't seem we need to do that at this point.
No.
I think this is actually working pretty much.
It is, it's working. I look forward to starting again and getting into this and really having rhythm, so the next time I report to you, I'm more confident in everything I'm saying.
I think it's great.
Wonderful, thank you, ma'am. So, now to approval of the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
One second.
Second.
We'll do that without exception. So approval of the previous minutes of September the 8th. Do you have a motion for approval of the minutes from September the 8th?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Any discussion or corrections or additions? You can also open that one.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Dr. Hooten,
Yes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes. The minutes for September the 27th, have a motion for approval.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, or omissions? So,
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Dr. Hooten,
Yes.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
yes. So we're down to personal appearances. Ms. Boyd, you're up first. We still have you on the screen here, okay. Don't forget to unmute yourself. I had that note passed to me to remind folks to don't forget to unmute yourself. So you're up. Nope, you're not working. Hang on, hang on. Try it one more time.
She better watch out. She's gonna forget that camera's on.
Is she on mute on her end?
Yes, it could be your
She said she's
microphone
never
is
done this
working.
before.
Her
It's
microphone
showing
is-
that you're muted,
Yeah.
and now you're unmuted, but your microphone is probably not working.
Just needs to turn up the volume on her.
Yeah.
her end.
You just need to turn up the volume on your end.
Bye-bye.
I love technology.
Mr. O'Rourke.
Well, yeah, well, you're working on that with her, Cap. Why don't we just move on to Mr. O'Rourke? Oh, there you go. No.
It's like slime.
Teenager in there.
Miss Floyd, while you work out your microphone, we're gonna move on to the next personal appearance.
Okay.
Waiting. Testing.
Yes,
Affirmative.
we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for the opportunity to come on here and discuss. I guess everybody at this point is probably familiar with the parking spaces that we wish to take possession of during the duration of the project. Does anybody need any description of that?
No, sir.
I think we had some maps that were pretty well self-explanatory of,
Okay, yeah, so just a little reasoning behind it. We're basically really just coming from a public safety standpoint. A lot of times we'll pull a truck up adjacent to our area on East Arctic Avenue, and for whatever reason, that truck, if the tractor trailer is pulling, it cannot clear the curb to get into our parking lot, we will actually have to unload items from the back of the truck using a crane and swing them over the sidewalk. And 90% of the time, the public adheres to our stop, slow paddle and doesn't walk by, but we did have one instance where a skateboarder just didn't listen and went on through the sidewalk, and it was underneath a suspended load. So we really are asking for it from a public safety standpoint. So it is, I think it's about 4 spots adjacent to our lot on the pier side or ocean side of East Arctic Avenue, and then about 4 spots across the street there. And also for our laydown yard out on the 2nd Avenue lot, the spots immediately adjacent or on the ocean side of East Arctic Avenue, we do need to maintain truck access into that yard. So at any time, we might remove a portion of the fence to bring a truck or multiple trucks in to get them in and off the road. So that's really where we're coming from. Is there any better description or any more information I could provide?
So can you hear me?
Wait a minute, we can
Yes,
just
ma'am.
make a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve. Mr. O'Rourke?
Second.
Now you can ask the question.
Mr. O'Rourke, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So just for clarification on the laydown area behind the pier, so your trucks are gonna go through that, pretty much that lot, and they can just keep on going rather than having to turn to enter the laydown area? Is that why you've got this?
Are you referring to our half of the parking lot outside of the pier there?
Yes.
So most of the time, a truck will come in from East Arctic Avenue and pull straight into our lot. It'll sit there until it's unloaded, and then it'll back out back on East Arctic Avenue and leave. So typically, we'll be able to bring a truck in without any lane closures, but occasionally we need to bring a truck in that's not able to clear that curb. It doesn't have the ground clearance to get into the parking lot, so it must remain on East Arctic Avenue. It parks in the direction of traffic blocking the parking spots in question. And we then have to unload items off the truck, and during that unloading, we are swinging a suspended load over the what's now a public sidewalk. And there's a parking kiosk there that brings a lot of pedestrians over, really close to our work area and close to our equipment and truck traffic. We all just feel it'd be the best for public safety if we had possession of those spots. So.
Okay.
Well, even if we give them those spots, people can still use that kiosk. Is that the
He's
only
gonna
kiosk
move
in
the
that
kiosk,
area?
moving the kiosk. Who pays for the removal and the relocation of this kiosk, the fire stand, and the telephone pole? Who's responsible for that?
We have already removed the telephone pole ourselves. It was being used for the old parking kiosk before they were converted to solar power. I do not know, I know some of the guys on site I spoke to, I believe Jared, who runs the parking, and he said he relocates those kiosks all the time. It's no big deal. So I think it's already upon approval on the schedule to be relocated. I do not know who would be paying for it, but I'd be happy to look at the cost if that's something that would help.
Those are what, I'm actually, I understand the parking, but I'm actually on this page. Okay, so a tree is to be removed, correct? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so a tree is to be removed. Has it already been removed?
Yes, we had permission from the city to remove about 8 or 9 palm trees total.
Okay, so the city, I've got that. So a tree, the fire stand pipe to be relocated. Have you done that?
We have not done that. We have manipulated our fence to maintain access to the fire department connection. We've done this in coordination with Deputy Chief Burke.
Okay, so that's fine then, so we're good with that. And then the kiosk that has already been removed,
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge. I believe it's on the schedule to be removed upon approval from City Council.
okay, okay. And then the only other, and then you've already removed the pole because you worked with someone to remove the pole? Okay, thank you.
So why do you need the spots across the street from Arctic that aren't on your side of the road?
When trucks are exiting the lot, the turn radius, it allows them to actually to be able to exit the lot.
It also helps them in unloading trucks in that roadway, depending on what.
I understand in the roadway.
But I'm saying, depending on what he's unloading for a swing zone for that crane.
For the
When
ones
you're-
closest to them, but the ones across the street.
I
And I didn't know
understand.
they removed 8 palm trees. Y'all can tell them that's okay without.
They gotta put them back.
Hope so.
Yeah, we'll be restoring it to the original condition at the end of the project.
They have photographs beforehand, and we'll have photographs afterwards.
Will parking be allowed after hours of operation of the construction? Or will they be off 24 hours?
This is the.
I would think we could open the spots across the street on weekends, across the street from both locations. We should not need the parking spots that are on the landward side across from the Second Avenue lot.
You don't have any
We just
spots
need-
on your map for that area.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
that's-
are you asking for those spots now, or are you saying you don't need them?
No, sir, I'm saying we don't need them. I thought I had them listed on the site plan, but you're right, they're not.
Okay, just so that I'm clear, when you're not working, the spots open up. Is that correct?
When we are not working, the parking spots on the landward side of East Arctic Avenue, immediately outside of the pier that we're asking for, those could reopen for the weekend.
They're saying the ones on the ocean side of their 2 properties will not reopen on the weekends. They will be permanently closed for the duration of the project.
Okay.
Yes, we would like to close the sidewalk and those parking spaces, and we would enclose them inside our security fence. We would extend our security fence out to encompass those. Just to maintain public safety and our operations.
And that you would do the same for the Second Avenue lot, and your security fence would go outside of those spaces on Second Avenue as well?
Yeah. Yes, as close to the shoulder as we'd be permitted.
So this question is not for Mr. O'Rourke, but perhaps for someone on city staff. Will the city incur any expense for which will be eligible to seek reimbursement through this project?
Everything except for the lost parking revenue is paid for by the company.
Okay. And that
We are not paying for anything with our labor or contract.
Okay, and that's where I was headed. If we were able to quantify the lost parking revenue during the 2-year span of the project, it sounds like we're looking at 16 spots. I'm sure we've got some pretty good metrics on average.
Yeah, we sent that out prior to the last meeting. I have to look at my emails to find the total.
Yeah, but we also remember, number one, we're working with the county to try to get the pier back as fast as we can. These guys are buying business license and permit fees, which are really way beyond what you're gonna make in that parking fee. So
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So the city's not losing money by losing those parking spaces, is what I'm saying.
Right. I thought the same, but I also thought it worthwhile to mention, sometimes we spend a lot of time in our budget process, about $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, when this could be a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 expense over 2 years. But
with the project going on, it could be a $80,000 gain too.
right, in which case I follow.
Call the question.
Anybody else?
I had another question for you guys, is that I know you've submitted your phone number to the Tide so that their guests can call if the work is, too much at 6:30 in the morning, or if your crew isn't doing the quiet work between 6:30 and 8. Can we also extend your number to like the condos that are also on the other side of the pier, not just the Tides? I think there are other businesses that might have short-term rentals that they could give that out, so that if, they've rented a condo for the week and they didn't realize the pier, where they were, that there was gonna be this construction, that, if they find that, okay, the work is starting too loud before 8 a.m., that they could call you, kind of the same courtesy that you're extending the Tides?
Yes, and we have reached out to the company that manages both of those units. I think 4 are managed by one and 2 by the other, and the structure immediately adjacent to our laydown yard. We'll be in there to inspect the building and make sure it doesn't incur any damage through the project.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, so
We're not talking about damage to the building. We're talking about, there's more than just one area right there. There's condos going to be interfaced during the season with rentals. Across the street on Ashley side, there's condos that's going to have to put up with the noise too. So actually, I think what we need to do is tell those companies renting those condos that if they have a problem with noise, they need to call the police department. The police department needs to take care of the contacts of the noise, versus 500 different people calling these guys because they don't know who they're talking to by any means or
Right.
stretch of imagination.
Is there could you send them a letter, Aaron? Can you zero in on who those people are and say, here's this, FYI?
We do
Tell your
have that
people, or-
ability. We could also require the contractors to get those addresses, but we definitely have the ability to target individual addresses with letters.
Well, I think we've all been trained that 8 o'clock is when everybody stops. Now, the hotel, I'm glad you're working with Giovanni. It's clear that it's 6:30 and you're working. But if I came and I thought the ordinance was 8 o'clock and something was loud at 6:30, I think we need to do something about that.
Well, that's what we need to reach out to the people who are managing the
yeah,
project.
sorry. I was going to get to that, and I'd like to give you guys a little update on it. We have not been starting at 6:30. We have pushed our start time back to 7. And every morning we hold a safety meeting from 7 to 7:30, and we do not start our equipment before 8 a.m. So there should not, we've been trying our best. We're not starting at 6:30, we're starting at 7, and we've been quiet until 8 p.m., not even starting equipment or the backup alarms or the heavy equipment or anything like that. So we've been trying to be very conscious of it. I'm definitely open to being in touch with any of the neighboring management companies of the rentals or anybody who would like to. If you guys need assistance from me in writing some letters to the neighboring properties, I'm more than happy to help. Just let me know what I can do.
Thank you for doing what you did, because you were gonna get a no vote from me until you just said that, in all honesty. So I appreciate you guys changing those times to get along with our noise ordinance a little more.
I agree.
All right, guys. Mr. Farley called a question a minute ago. I have a second.
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna take a vote.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Groom,
Yes.
Dr. Hope,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes. Okay, so we had any luck with Miss Boyd?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yay! Okay. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, first, want to welcome you back to what I think is the original council chambers. But I'm sure you all heard that ambulance drive by just a few minutes ago. And, every minute that goes by on an arrest victim, your survival rate drops approximately 10%. My business, ACLS Trainers, teaches CPR, advanced cardiac life support, and pediatric advanced life support to our essential medical personnel. That means doctors, anesthesiologists, your surgeon, your cardiologist, you name it, that's who we teach. We do all over the place, North and South Carolina, but we mostly target Folly Beach for our public workshops. It's about 1 to 2% of our business. However, we love Folly. I'm a resident here, live at 1668 East Ashley Avenue, y'all know. And we teach, all the hospitals and surgery centers and private practices. So we've been teaching at the community center library, on a Saturday basis for the better part of 13 years, and has always worked with the city to make sure that we didn't collide with anything. We've rented that workshop space, always made sure that our calendars, were good with them. And I've always gotten to the city every year before the next year, the next couple years. As a matter of fact, we currently are holding reservations up until January 2022. We had been recently advised by the city that they're now requiring formal permission to do this. It's something we've historically done. So I guess we're coming to you to make sure that we can continue to do this. It's not, I guess you would say, it's more like renting the venue, not really running a commercial business out of it. So that's what we've done, and all the the personnel that we have, they're about 6 figures. So when they come in, they also, stay and play. So we like bringing our business here, and we like having our medical staff come to Folly. They love it. They stay and do a lot of things. So the economic impact from our business, my business, ACLS Trainers, it affects more than just me. It affects Folly Beach businesses, all year long. I have a business license on Folly, always had the business license on Folly, and, our founder and one of the instructors, Alan, has taught on the island since 1984. And some of you may remember that we opened that community center library for a medical facility at Hugo for a little while. And, I sent you a letter so I didn't have to kill a lot of your time on this. I just was coming to you to see, in hopes to have our business continue with Folly Beach as we've historically done, and being able to provide essential medical training on Folly as we have done for the past, since 1984 technically, but I've had the city community center since, for about 13 years now.
Okay, so I want to answer a question for you because
Sure.
right now we have a committee looking at community center use. Community center won't be used for the public for any time in the near future. Probably, who knows? It won't be before next spring. So once the committee comes back with use recommendations and the council decides what they want to do with that, I think that would be a time for you to ask about using it then, so you know what you're looking at. So saying that, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, I'm just saying we got a committee working on it, and the community center will not be open to the public for months, 6 or 8 months down the road at least, probably.
Okay, sir. Yes, I have been advised of that, even though, like I said, we had that workshop, currently with the city and paid for with the city. I understand. I've been working with Colleen a little bit on this. I understand, we're renovating City Hall. It's going to be beautiful. sure. But, you know, the dynamics of everything has changed, especially with COVID. You know, we've had, you know, with all the changes on Foley that's happened, we don't have a choice. We have to teach these medical personnel. They can't work without our card. So if they can't, they have to get it from us. And we had to have actually left the island for a little while. And we've actually done a lot of private workshops for these people. So the fact of the matter is, I know what your dynamics are. Our dynamics are the fact that I've got essential medical personnel who has to have an American Heart Association card to work. This is something we've always provided on Folly Beach. We've actually have more than one time came to the city or to the police department and said, hey, we'll do your training for free. So nobody's taken us up on that yet, which I'm surprised about.
That's because we have our own in-house instructors. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's fantastic. But, you know, we've always, you know, wanted to be a part of Folly, and we always have been. I know like I said, with Colleen, we've discussed it, and I know the dynamics are changing. I know more than likely we're not going to be able to be in there for 2021, but I'm really looking to come back to Folly for 2022 and forward after everything for the city has changed and everybody's back in the city hall and everything settles down.
That's why I made the mention that you might want to come later, but since you want to force the hand, I'll ask, does anybody want to make a motion to grant her request? No motion, your request is denied, I'm sorry. Ms. Barford, excuse me, Ms. Barford.
Ms. Barker, I believe you're muted.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Again, my name is Michelle Barford, and I thank you for listening to me tonight. We live within the city limits of Folly Beach, right up the road at the Clam Farm. And we were notified that there was a plot of land within our subdivision, if you will, within our residential area, next to a pump station on the corner of Folly Road and Bowens Island Road, that was deeded to the city at a cost of $10, approximately 15 years ago. And the intended use at that time was for a fire station. And that is no longer on the table. And so we heard that Folly Beach was now going to consider usage of this plot of land for a vehicle storage area, in which they would erect a privacy fence with some appropriate landscaping so that it would be, quote, attractive and everything. But we are in, I'm speaking on behalf of me, I guess, for my community. We are absolutely opposed to this. That the original, I guess, usage for this land was for an altruistic notion of a fire station, which is no longer on the table. And to me, it's no longer on the table for such a great reason as a fire station, then I think that the plot of land should revert back to the Clam Farm, because it is a buffer for Folly Road and Bowens Island Road. There are residences that abut this plot of land that have 2- and 3-story, well, actually, there's the only 2 that abut it are 3-story units. So it doesn't matter how high the privacy fence is, when they are out on their porches, they're going to be looking down into this area that's going to have city vehicles parked there. And we do not feel that this is something that our community should have to put up with, that it will be ugly no matter how much you try to dress it up. It was sold to you all for $10, again, as a altruistic need for a fire station. And since you no longer need it for that, I think it should revert back to the clam farm. We don't feel that it would serve any other purpose for you guys, but it acts as a buffer and also additional parking spaces for us. And I just feel that y'all don't need it for the same reasons that we do. There's good reasons we
Ms.
do.
Barford, you just said something that really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to look at your cars parked there, but it's not okay for you to look at our cars parked there.
But you're not talking about cars, you're talking about trucks and other city vehicles.
Well, you know.
And we don't allow boats and trailers to be parked on it. It is for vehicular traffic only. And it's got the buffer of the trees and the natural landscaping so that we don't have to see as much of Folly Road as we can or as much of Bowen's Island Road as we can. So there's a buffer.
Well, when you bought your house there, it was already deeded to the city. So, you know, it's kind of like now you want the city to give back something that was deeded to the city to start with by the original developers who used that as a way to get your development approved to be built there. So, you know,
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please? And who am I speaking to?
This is the mayor speaking to you, and I said, when you bought your house, that lot was already deeded to the city.
I got that.
Because it was deeded to the city by the original developers as part of the deal so they could make this development down there. You know, that was one of their playing cards. They would say, oh, well, here you go, city, we're gonna give you this lot, and we wanna do all this other stuff, so, you know.
So are you saying, Mr. Mayor, that the only reason you allowed this development was if you could get that lot?
I'm not saying that that's the only reason that the city council at that time allowed the development. I was not the mayor back then, thank you very much. I'm saying that's what happened when the original developers came through. And I got your motion, what you want to make a motion made for, so I want to ask if there's anybody on this city council who wants to make a motion to agree to give back the land to that development. So nobody's making a motion, so that the motion is denied. The request is denied.
All right, we'll take this up in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Nobody here is running in November, by the way.
What?
Lee Rowland, are you here? Ms. Rowland, there you go.
Here, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Lee Rowland, and I'm here on behalf of the nonprofit organization Charleston Beach Foundation as a director. Our foundation is comprised of supporters across Beach, Island, Charleston, Mount Pleasant, Somerville, and other South Carolina residents. Our foundation provided you previously with a copy of the letter from the South Carolina Foundation Director Christy Hall to the Isle of Palm City Council, which is dated December 23rd, 2020. In this letter, Ms. Hall states, quote, state-owned highways are public facilities and the rights of the public to utilize these publicly owned assets may not be permanently eliminated by the action of the government. Quote. I would like to have this letter admitted into the minutes of this meeting. This letter pertains to Folly Beach as well as the Isle of Palms, in that your emergency ordinance number 11-20 and the amendment to prohibited parking along state-owned roads. On behalf of our foundation and its supporters, we hereby request you immediately remove any and all present restrictions on parking on state-owned roads in Folly Beach and refrain from elimination on these roads in the future. Thank you so much.
Well, let me let me say something to you that I spoke with you earlier. Number one, we have not talked about eliminating any parking spaces. Number two, we were allowed by the governor by executive order to restrict parking as one means of controlling access and numbers of people on the beach in his executive orders. And number three, Ms. Hall actually spoke to me and told me that this letter did not pertain to Folly Beach because Folly Beach was not considering anything that this letter pertained to from the Department of Transportation. So that's my answer to you. And our parking restrictions, other than what the restrictions are, you can't park on the highway and you have to be off the highway, regular parking restrictions, went into effect 3 days before you actually sent a letter saying you wanted to come speak to us. So that part has already been done, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee. Narrow Island Productions. No, Ms. Lee? Mr. Lee?
I know they're both on here. Miss Lee, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, okay. There we go.
Miss Lee, I believe your video isn't working or your internet service isn't working very well. I'm sorry, Mr. Paris, we also can't hear you either. No, we can't hear either of you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Tom Paris. I'm the location manager for the second season of Outer Banks. We're coming to you with a presentation to hopefully do some filming down at the Folly Beach County Park in November. It's a scene that we're still working on our schedule for, but I know the requirements for getting a film permit for the City of Folly Beach require us to come before the town council a certain amount of time ahead of time. So some of the information I have is, at this point, estimation based on my experience. And as we progress, and if we get at least a conditional approval at this time, I'll be able to provide more information to the city as we go, and we just get our schedule set and all that kind of stuff. But I did submit an application with a tentative date of November 13th to the city. And what we're interested in doing and hoping to be able to do is film a scene at the end of the Folly Beach on the county park property. We're working with the county park as well. The scene is a big back to school party, high school party kind of scene. We set in the dusk sunset into a little bit of the evening kind of situation. The scene does involve a special effects bonfire in the beach, which I sent the details on how we would do that. But basically, we would use bigger versions of the ceramic logs you have in your gas fireplace, along with pallets that are also coated in a ceramic material to keep them from burning, all controlled via propane, with lines that are covered by sand, run to propane tanks operated by our special effects technicians. Our special effects coordinator, Ray Bivens, is licensed in South Carolina for pyrotechnics, and as we progress, we'll be happy to speak with fire marshal, fire chief, and anyone else, safety, anyone else is interested about how that would operate, what safety measures are in place. We would have fire extinguishers on set. If necessary, we'd be happy to have firefighters on standby as a just in case. And the original application did include something that I'm sure might have caught it by his eye. I can happily say that that's gone away, and that would be the motorcycles on the beach. That was written by a writer who is not, a Carolina native, either North or South Carolina, and doesn't really understand how things work on our coast. And that has gone away, so we're not requesting to operate any motorcycles on the beach. We would have in the scene boats beached like you would normally see along the inlet side of the beach on a normal Saturday or Sunday in the spring and summer, which these would be picture boats hired by us and coordinated through our marine department, that they would be anchored or beached as the water conditions dictate, based on tide, etc. We would have extras in the boats and on the beach, just being high school kids at a beach party. As the scene progresses, we do have an argument that ensues between two of our main characters who, at the end of last season, are dating. During this season, they're not dating. High school drama. And then a brief fight ensues between the two factions of our world, the Pogues and the Kooks. The Pogues being the everyday people, and the Kooks being the rich kids. All done through stunt coordinators and stunt doubles and all that kind of stuff, safely controlled, rehearsed and practiced ahead of time. The scene will go a little bit into night, which will have a little bit of night lighting. I know that by the time we do this, we'll be out of turtle season, both nesting and hatching. So we would not have that issue, as we've come before you several times before over the years with a request to film during the wrong season. And we would contain ourselves to the park with our parking and our base camp and everything else. And that's at this point, that's what I have. I know that there's some maps that are represented maps. If anyone has any questions or comments or thoughts.
I'm going to call your time. To have a motion for approval.
So moved.
With a second.
Second.
Anybody got any questions?
I do. So I was looking at the tide chart, and there's a king tide starting that Friday.
Okay.
So, and where you're talking about, in a regular high tide, you still have a little bit of the beach left, to do the boat thing. And I'm glad you took the motorcycles out, because I wasn't sure how you were going to work that. But, with the king tide, it's like 6'6", so 6 feet, a little higher than 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 inches. And then at 5:40 in the morning, which I know you're going to be in the, dusk timing, but it'll be at least 6 feet by 6 o'clock that day. So,
I'm sorry, I had a little internet issue. Last I heard was 6 feet.
Okay, yeah, so the tide will be 6 feet that evening, starting at 6 o'clock. So that's about how, high it will get. So, and I guess I'm concerned that, as the tide will be, definitely much higher than it typically would be at a high tide. And with all this activity, that's going to just push you closer into the dune area and, some of this more protected areas too.
Right.
So, and did y'all look at the tides when you picked this date?
Like I said, as of right now, there's not a lot of people in our production thinking this far ahead. We're doing true episodic, so every 10 days we're shooting a new episode, and this is for episodes 7 and 8, which is still we won't start shooting those until the beginning of November, and that's the unfortunate thing about having them appear so early is I don't have all the information that I would have. And I just have the basic information. So no, short answer to your question is I have not looked at the tides yet. And this date was a date that, based on what I know the scene involved, that I picked that fit into the time frame we'd be filming this episode.
Right. So I mean, in my opinion, I think if something that's considered this high impact, you're going to have 150, 160 people possibly, right? With crew, actors, extras, all of that. the tides are pretty important, especially where
Oh,
you're
yes,
gonna
of
be.
course.
You know, it's definitely not where houses are, but that's just a pretty important area. And being a king tide, you know, at the inlet, the water's gonna be moving, you know, and to
Yes, ma'am.
have, you know, boats in the water and all of that, you gotta beach the boats, and those boats are gonna be moving even though they're beached, because it's moving
Right.
water. You know, there's just a lot of things to consider that, and it starts with the tide. So I worry that since the tide wasn't considered for this particular day, you know, if the benefit, you know, is equal, you know, if there is a huge benefit, or if we could set ourselves up for a disaster.
Right. Well, I can attest to the safety aspect. We, you know, God forbid, we will have water safety and lifeguards on hand. And our Marine coordinator, most likely the boats would be, I'm gonna, if you guys don't mind, do you mind if I share the screen for a minute?
That's fine.
I don't mind.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, I think that should be like Zoom, okay? I don't think I have anything bad to see, so I think we're good. All right, let's see. This is not, oh, wow, I'm sorry, this is not like Zoom. I'm actually the 60s here, guys, I apologize.
Come back. And everything crashes.
Forget that. So, okay, I think I'm sharing now. Can everybody see what I have on my screen?
Yeah.
No.
Or do you just see me?
You.
We have
Okay.
copies of the map, I think, so.
Okay, well, if you look at the map, I'm thinking that the boats, you know, based, and again, factoring into the tide, you know, we would adjust our boats to where they would be beached to a more safer side, maybe even on the back side of the island, the point there. You know, and we would adjust our bonfire accordingly based on what the tide was projected to be, where we would place it, and all of that. I mean, we would, you know, in the end, like I said, you know, we would take everything into consideration and adjust ourselves accordingly for safety as well as environmental concerns and, you know, for the picture.
On the point of safety as well, should this be approved, could you just make sure that your licensed drivers that are driving the vans throughout the island, that they adhere to our 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for safety purposes? I've
Yes,
noticed
sir,
a man yesterday morning that was speeding, so just.
Oh, really?
Just let them be aware of
yeah,
it, that it's 25-mile island-wide, so.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that attention. I'll bring that to our transport coordinator, let them know that there was an issue yesterday, and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
Because we always want to be,
Oh, yeah.
we want to be welcome.
So do we.
Any other questions?
Yeah, is there an opportunity for the city of Folly Beach to receive an acknowledgement, credit, or thank you for its appearance within the episode?
I can't personally say yes or no. I know typically Netflix hasn't. I know last season our thing was just, you know, filmed on location in South Carolina. I can say that the fans have a very good knack of finding where we film. They have found every single location we filmed at last season. And some of those are way off the beaten path.
I have actually a question for the staff, since this seems to be moving in the sense of, you know, safety, tides, things of that nature. And I still lack specific clarity about how some of those concerns are going to be addressed. So do we just leave that to you working with the team? Because maybe the date does have to, I mean, who knows? Because you admittedly didn't factor in the tide. So is there still that flexibility to make this a win for everyone and, you know, within that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, if I may answer, I believe, you know, on our end, we do have some flexibility. You know, obviously, your approval is the biggest thing. And I understand if we did get approval tonight, it would be conditional. I'm more than happy to have that because I'm welcome to and happy to work with everyone at Folly to, you know, move forward so that we do get, you know, not conditional, but good approval, and that we do our scenes safely.
Right.
And everyone is happy with how we do it.
Right. I mean, it benefits everyone. So
Yes.
who is that point person? As far as working with those details?
That would be the chief and Aaron.
Okay, okay. Thank
And
you.
the deputy chief for the fire.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Call the roll.
Dr. Hutton,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
No.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Rich, Mayor Goodwin.
No,
Passes.
so it passes. So you got your permission.
All right, thank you, and I promise I will work with everyone, and as we progress, updating everything, and we'll address the tides, any other safety issues, and any issues that are brought up to us, we will address them, work with the town, or excuse me, the city, if I'm working on Pleasant as well. Work with the city to make sure that we follow the rules that are given to us.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Ike, did you have any citizen comments? None? No commissioner board reports, so we move into old business, ordinance 22-20. Ordinance amending chapter 134, Folly Beach Code of Ordinances by repealing and replacing sections 134.5 through 134.54, and amending section 134.99 to require a permit for mooring, prohibiting mooring within certain distances of public boat landings, bridges, private docks, and marinas, prohibited derelict or abandoned vessels, and giving the Department of Public Safety authority to seize and tow vessels in violation. This is the second reading. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Pope.
Yes, I had
Oh.
one. The page numbering has changed, so it may take me just a moment to find it, but there is reference in what was letter A on page 39, let me see if it's still there, in which it reads, it's unlawful to ground on public land. You see that in here? Where is that?
It's on page 39.
Still, okay, 39A. So I mentioned that in the context of what, if any, impact that would have on oystering. So it's common practice for boats to beach, people to get off the boat, and for them to do their thing.
What he's talking about, what they're talking about grounding, and this is like washing up on the marsh, and, you know, not somebody just getting out to get oysters and gonna leave. It's like your boat breaks loose and tears up 2 acres of marsh.
But, so,
If I can have the rest of that sentence, indicates more or ground exposing water to the city, any derelict vessel. So it's specifically referring to derelict vessels.
okay. Yeah, that helps, thank you.
Mr. Pope.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Grooms,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin.
Yes. It passes. Resolution 36-20, a resolution of Folly Beach City Council authorizing staff to purchase a ladder truck and pumper truck from Pierce Apparatus. Have a motion for approval?
So
Have a second?
Yes. Second.
Any questions or comments?
I mean, have we gotten any of the information that we asked for last time?
Well, you got a package full of it. Here, Mr. Lee, got this corner, he's very comfortable.
Yeah, that's all the same stuff we had last time.
Lee, come on up and explain. I believe he's updated all this stuff for you.
Yes, it's a whole brand new package.
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow, when you gave background,
Yes.
and I just, this is me, it says 1991 and then 1994. It's one of those, right? There's not a truck I'm missing in the sense of, the top of this background.
The pumper truck?
Pumper truck is a 91, it's a 2008 pumper and a 2008 ladder, so there's 3 trucks total. That's the-
Okay, so at some point there's a 1994. Okay, so it's 91, so there's only 3. Okay, I got it.
And then, just on that, I know on the work background, there's one line here that says, Pierce proposal to purchase the City 08 pumper, which is not true, you're gonna keep the pumper. Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's and so they're just gonna take and trade the ladder truck. And the 91 will be sold
Well, to them.
to them as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that should be the 91.
Should be the 91.
Okay.
91.
No problem.
And then my only other question is, okay, so, and this is totally, I know this is gonna be, we are tax exempt. We are not tax exempt, so we have to pay $1,000 in sales tax.
Yeah, it's
Bottom line.
$500 per vehicle.
Okay, so we are.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to.
And they actually put all that, we purposely pile all that apparatus on that truck as a sole purchase to prevent us paying additional sales taxes on that apparatus.
Okay,
That's
got it.
expensive.
Any other questions, comments?
When we vote on this, are we also doing the 5, 7, 5, 7, 10 increments?
That's a good point. I did leave the resolution purposely vague. If you all want to nail down an actual amortization, what payment schedule you want us to use. I know last time that was kind of a point of discussion. I want to make sure I left that open, or if you wanted staff to negotiate that.
To me, it was a point of discussion because I want to know to handcuff us to for the budget for the next couple of years, which I still don't see any of that. Those questions that I asked, I don't see any of that information.
Well, it's depending on what amortization schedule you choose is what you'll be.
I hear you, that's okay.
5, 7,
Whatever.
10.
So if you want to pick a schedule, then you need to make a motion for an amendment.
I would like to make a motion for amendment to select the schedule.
What?
7.
Second.
So we have a motion to amend the resolution to a 7-year schedule. A motion and a second. Anybody want to discuss that?
I just think 7, it gives us a better rate, and we can, depending on how the budget goes, to Mr. Rich's point, we can speed up payments in good budget years and save without penalty, correct? And it doesn't handcuff us as much as if we were to go with the 5-year. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility, secures a better rate.
Okay, anybody else?
Lee, what did you recommend last month? Is it 7?
The 10, actually.
But you recommended the 10.
Because it was in keeping with our long-term strategic plan of what we were saving versus on what we were replacing, right? So it kept us basically on keels, and council had that flexibility where it was basically transparent. We were losing one net and picking this one up. And you could continue forward budgeting without an effect, so to speak. We get, as you step into the 7 and the 5-year, obviously your payments rise.
Right.
And it will crimp your budget over it because you're not replacing the same. You're getting rid of a lower payment and you're assuming a higher payment.
But if you did the 10, you, like what Mr. Farley was saying, you could, on good years, you could actually pay more, so you could.
You could, although history serves, generally that's not done because everybody sees that and it's money to fight over.
Right.
It's already been out there, right? So.
Okay.
So if I was to ask you, which I'm going to, do you prefer 7 or 10?
Honestly, I have no problem with the 7-year schedule. I think 5 would be a little bit harsh. I think we feel it, but I think 7 is certainly doable. One of the things I mentioned last council meeting is, we are
there is a property tax reassessment, which you all should receive in the mail. You probably saw that notice. I'm anticipating probably an additional $250,000 of property taxes, just on, or, you know, based on that reassessment.
That's the stuff I asked for. That's the stuff I asked for. That's what I asked for, budgetary implications. And we had a nice little chat about it, because like the county said, no, yes it does, and but we don't have any of that to know what our budget implications are for the next couple of years.
Again, it'd have to be a whole other performance on the entire budget year. You'd be taking it from one department to another. I mean, it would be a whole, you could spend an hour on it. And to come back to this discussion of, okay, how much do you want to absorb? But again, that's just my guesstimate. It may not pan out that way. But looking at what we have at this point, 7 years ago shouldn't be too much to talk about. 5 year might be a little bit much.
Okay, so 5 is a risk, 7 you can live with, and 10, because that's where we started. How do you feel about 10?
10 was the recommended because that was what our plan was, right? Take old debt that was rolling off and replace it with new debt and have no change, keep going forward. 10-year would do that, and would actually add a little bit of, because we got such a great interest rate, a little bit of extra margin that council could play with on our annual budget going forward.
So why we get sucker punched in interest payments?
Right.
I mean, look at the interest you're paying, the difference between 7 and 10. It's huge.
Right. Yeah, so the opportunity cost
No,
there is.
I understand. I'm, to be honest, I'm just kind of yielding to, you know, what you originally proposed and try. I get it.
And quite honestly, I mean, we're doing really well because what we anticipated in the long-term plan was a much higher amount of debt we were going to take on and probably a higher interest rate. So it was really I think a lot of that is, I mean, we'll have, you know, what, $1.67 billion worth of equipment paid off in 7 years. And the useful life of that equipment is, what, 10 to 15 years? So you'll have.
Or in the case of one of our trucks, 30 years.
Yeah. But in that meantime, you know, obviously those intervening years, that 6-7 years, we'll be able to save up for yet more apparatus, and we'll actually be ahead of the power curve for the first time in city history. Yeah. So,
Actually have a reserve account.
yeah, actually have a reserve account, believe it or not. So it's really exciting to see that.
Anybody else?
So is it on the motion for 7 years?
A motion for 7 years.
Mr. Bruce?
Yes.
Dr. Hutton?
No.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
No.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. So now back to the resolution as amended.
Mr. Rich?
No.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Okay, so we're down to new business, ordinance 11-20, Fourth Amendment. Just keeps going and going and going like Energizer Bunny, right? Emergency ordinance requiring that face coverings or masks be worn in public in the city of Folly Beach as amended. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Have a second? Second. So we basically took the ordinance, emergency ordinance, and everything's pretty much gone except what the governor asked the cities, counties, municipalities to do is keep the face mask working and some social distance working, so that's where we are. Any comments, questions? Any opposed?
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Groom?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Okay, so we got ordinance 12-20 coming up. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 168, Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, Section 16804, by applying the merger doctrine to and requirements for street access to substandard lots adjacent to the marsh and oceanfront state jurisdictional lines. This is first reading. This motion needs to be voted down because we have another more accurate ordinance coming up in 24-20. This was actually written on an incorrect ordinance, and the planning commission recognized that fact and said, whoa, we're not going to even have a public hearing of this. So this one just needs to go away so we can get on with business. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Poe?
Should we call for a motion?
Oh, yeah, I need a motion for approval, excuse me. Need a motion for approval, so it's dead on arrival. Very good. That's why I keep you here. So this is 23-20, ordinance amending Chapter 95, Folly Beach Code of Ordinances, Section 9509, animal tags, by requiring that pet tags be renewed annually. And I'm going to make, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
So I'm going to make a motion to amend this, and it will say tags shall be valid on a rolling calendar year, and must be renewed annually.
Second.
Any question about that? Comments? Okay. This is on the motion for amendment.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Ms. Rich? Or Mr. Rich?
Yeah.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Back to the ordinance as amended. Any comments or questions? Vote.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Rich? Yeah. Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Okay, ordinance 24-20, ordinance amending Chapter 168. Here we go, folks. The Folly Beach Code of Ordinances at 168.04, non-conforming lots by applying the merger doctrine and requirements for street access to substandard lots adjacent to the marsh and ocean state jurisdictional lines. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
And this sets it right and gets it away from interior lots. This is just for lots that are on the exterior environmental sides, oceanfront and marshfront.
We'd also like to make this pending.
Well, yeah. So we need to make a motion to remand to planning.
So moved.
All right, have a second. And then we'll go to planning. And there we will make it pending, so it's in effect right this minute.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Resolution 38-20, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement with Charleston County for shared computer aid dispatch CAD software. Have a motion for approval? Have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Dr. Houghton?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. A resolution 39-20, a resolution by Folly Beach City Council amending the Folly Beach Personnel Handbook to require that employees provide up-to-date information for direct deposits and to require that employees enter the correct time worked prior to paid period closing. We have a motion for approval.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Dr. Houghton seconded.
Then a motion to amend where it says they won't get paid, to say they won't get paid in that pay period, just to fix that.
Where was that, Animal?
On page 75.
Where was that?
The second to the last sentence. If you don't, you will not get paid for those hours.
In the red section.
Yeah. I get paid, you won't, yeah, so you want to amend that to say you won't be paid for those hours until the next regular pay period.
Right.
Staff,
On that.
any questions or comments about that? Thank you. So on the amendment,
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Groom,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Farley,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
yes. So back to 39-20 as amended.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Mr. Groom,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes. So we're at 40-20, resolution 40-20, a resolution by Folly Beach authorizing the administration to enter into a memorandum of agreement, with Charleston County Parks and Recreation to allow essential Charleston County Parks and Recreation employees access to the radio channels used by Folly Beach Public Safety. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
This actually goes back to where they were before the radios were encrypted, right?
They supply the hardware, the radios?
Yeah, no cost to us. This is simply giving them the permission to be able to communicate.
Any other questions or comments?
I will make comment, they do a great job on oceanfront during rescue and water rescues, and so they fill a role in public safety, so thanks to them.
And we didn't mean to cut them out when you encrypted the radios.
Yeah.
To start with.
Right.
All right, Mr. Coach?
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Groom,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Farley,
Yes.
Dr. Houghton,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin,
Yes. Resolution 41-20, a resolution by Folly Beach authorizing the transfer of funds from the Public Safety Housing Reserve Fund. So motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
This goes along with the process y'all approved last time for adding more.
Wasn't there gonna be like a stipend differential if they move closer, like say they move to James Island and not Folly? Has that changed somewhere?
Yes, it's all part of that plan. Plus, I believe it was Mr. Farley was asking for a monthly.
Report, I saw the thing in the email about the report.
Yeah.
I didn't see any mention of what the stipend would be, say if they move to James Island instead of Folly, or how that's gonna affect the program, or if it's an updated allowance program.
We all approved this before I sent out the message to everybody. I didn't want to put it out there and then y'all say no, and then I didn't have anything to.
So
This is the addition of that spot, the 6 spot we talked about.
So if we approve this tonight, then by the next meeting, we're gonna see a new policy revision where it says if they're on Folly, they get X amount of dollars per month. If they're on James Island, they get X amount. They must fill out a report every month, and we'll get copies of those reports as needed.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we get the information that we've spoken about.
And just for my clarification, what is the report that you're going to get? Like, what will that tell us?
Well, what was talked about during the last meeting, unless y'all want something different, was having, it'll tell you how many times they were called out, how many times they were put on standby, they're basically acknowledging, attesting to their current address, those qualify, they haven't moved, haven't left, and that's something they fill out every time prior to getting the stipend. That's what
if I lived on Foley, I don't have to do that, but if I live on James Island, I do.
No, you get the second period regardless of where.
So I fill out the report if I get cited.
Yes.
But it's not the same dollar-wise
No,
if they live on James Island.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure we reiterate everything that we've spoken about for the new policy.
Correct.
Anybody else?
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Dr. Hutton?
Yes.
Ms. Bragg?
Yes.
Mr. Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Farley?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mayor Goodwin?
Yes. Okay, council member comments, we'll start with Dr.
Well, I'm gonna switch my hat and say Halloween program around the corner. People signing up to be dancing like witches. They are going to decorate their houses. We are still having, the costume contest, all socially distanced. But the key thing I think that's amazing is that all the entities are working together. The Civic Club, the county park, and the city, and folks stop me and give me bags of candy. So, everyone is making the most, knowing it's not the traditional carnival, it's a program. And it's, now you know the next question is, what about the holidays? But I don't touch it. So I'm just grateful that we're doing it and the generosity of everyone.
So since you segued into that, I will say, we will have holidays, we will have events, but it's gonna be different than anything we've ever did before. So, just kind of stay tuned as these get planned out accordingly, down the line. Mr. Farley?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Green?
I would just like to tell the community thank you for, really supporting public safety over the past several months and weeks. And I wanted to let everyone know that October 28th is National First Responders Day. Of course, every day is important to thank our public safety, but just make sure you write that date down, October 28th, and make it special for them. But just whenever you see them on the street, just make sure that you tell them hello and thank you, and that you support them. So, there you go.
Mr. Barker?
This meeting was longer than usual, so I want to thank the public for tuning in, thank the staff for putting in the extra time. And with Halloween coming up, don't let your guard down from the standpoint of COVID.
Good.
I'm good.
No?
No comment, thanks for watching. I don't know who's left, but.
No comment.
So one thing I have a comment for before we leave this evening, and I meant to say the mayor's comments, I forgot. Last night, as I was told by several people from both sides of the island, there was a rash of signs being stolen, political signs especially. I just want to remind everybody, if you had that done, if you have a camera or your neighbors have cameras and you have some footage of something, get in touch with the Public Safety Department. Remind the people that if you are caught doing that, you will be prosecuted, and it is against the law. And when you get up into the taking federal signs, it's a different process, and it's even more strict and stringent. Punishment. So, it's not something to be really taken lightly. We have had in Charleston County people caught before, and it was pretty hefty fines for that. So, if you see it happening, call the police department. If you think you have a complaint, call the police department. They'd be glad to talk to you. Or if you think you have any idea of how it went, call the police department. They'll be glad to talk to you. Thank you very much. You have a motion to adjourn? So, off record, whatever time.